Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be taking a look at the very best cards for GLC from the set Phantasmal Flames. So, as for some new updates, along with a little Punk Helmet here, which isn't in the rest of the video by the way, but Punk Helmet is here. I'll basically just be ranking each type and the new trainers. The ranking is of course, however, a personal opinion, and the main point of the video is really just to showcase the best new cards for each type. So yeah, if you have any major disagreements, of course, do let me know down below. But kicking things off, we have dragon types and lightning types. So yeah, dragon types are on a bit of a vacation, I guess. They're just they're just not in this set. But we do have a Pawmot for lightning types, and that was like the only notable card I feel like was worth talking about. Voltage Fists for 2 lightning G does 130, and you do 60 damage to itself, which is a bit rough unless you use a protection cube. But at the very least, you do cause paralysis, which is always very nice. So if you're not like one-shotting something, you can always inflict a paralysis, which is of course great. But at the same time, Pawmot is very fragile. You're not going to get Protection Cube every single time, but there might be games where you can Arvin turn 2 for a rare candy Protection Cube, and it's a lovely combo. But at the end of the day, I really don't think this card is going to like drastically change GLC or anything. But it's still a fun card though. Next up is we have Psychic types. Now, special shout out to Wonder Patch, which is like hard carrying Psychic types, because like just like lightning types, really, there's honestly nothing that crazy here. Like Limit Break on Zacian is fine. Like Bramblegast, if you want to like do some crazy confusion chainings, then like maybe you could try and like chain a few Bramblegasts with like Tour scenario and things. But in all honesty, I don't think it's worth it. Like just inflicting confusion on evolving abilities, just like it's whatever, Like if we ever get a basic psychic Pokemon that does crazy, crazy damage, if your opponent's active is confused, then I would definitely see the argument to play Bamblegast. But I think as it stands right now, Wonder Patch is by far the most interesting card for psychic types, at least in this set. Yeah, moving on to colorless types, we have a new Wigglytuff with Round. So if there is enough round attackers for colorless, then sorry, I don't know the answer to that question, but if there is, then Wigglytuff could be used there, which is nice. Smeargle with Energy Catch is quite nice because it is a bit of energy acceleration. So, sorry, if it's not like, well, like the thing is, it's not rubbish, but it's not the best option by a mile. But like, I would say if you're just starting out in GLC, there are like way worse options for energy acceleration. So having a Smeargle in your deck is like not the worst thing in the world, but colorless types typically, especially in like the more competitive veins of GLC, are all built around like special energy and Porygon Z. So like I don't necessarily think Smeargle is super worth it, but it's one of those things where like if you're just starting out, like you could do way worse, basically. We also got this Ambipom with Dual Tail, which is just like a reprint of Dugong from like the Sun and Moon era for some reason. But yeah, like discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, does 60 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So, if you want like a spread attacker, I guess, and Ambipom's not the worst, but overall, nothing that impressive really. Like spread's gone a bit weaker, I feel like, in GLC just because of the amount of bench protection there is kicking around, especially now that grass types have one for Shaman. But like Ambipom, honestly, not the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem that impressive to me personally. Next up is we have metal types. Now these two are like way more interesting in my opinion, just because Bronzong has synergy with other tool drop attackers, and there is a dual blade, I want to say, from the Sun and Moon era that also has a tool drop attack. So you could definitely build a tool drop style deck in GLC, which is cool. So tool drop, 40 damage for each tool card attached to all Pokemon in play. So not just your tools, but also your opponent's tools. So there's a chance that this guy can do some really crazy damage actually. So I'll be very interested to see what people can come up with this Bronzong, because I do think it has at least solid potential at the very least. And then Archaludon can also just wall out basic Pokemon. Granted, it is a bit expensive at 3 Metal Energy, but I think if you're just putting together your first Metal type GLC deck, like with Metang, maybe like one of them again zones that's been around recently that can accelerate energy, those sorts of attackers, maybe throw in like an Orthworm or something, then this Archaludon is like not that bad actually. So being able to wall out basics, I think is quite good. So yeah, quite nice for metal types. Next up is we have fighting types. Now, some personal bias allowed fighting types to be higher than metal types in this video, but honestly, I do think the metal types are probably just a bit stronger overall, but I do like the fighting types. We've got Flygon and Glysaur, I think it's pronounced. So Flygon's kind of interesting, like when it gets knocked out, you get to mill the top 2 cards of your opponent's Pokemon, and when it evolves as well. So you could do some fun like super scoop up devolution spray shenanigans. And I do believe there is like a fighting type meal deck already in GLC, which is kind of fun, with like stack attacker and stuff. So maybe Flygon could find a home there, which is nice. And this Glysaur is okay, like 50 damage and poison is whatever. But the whole thing where your opponent's Pokemon can't retreat is really nice. So like you might not even want to KO Pokemon. Like this might just be a fighting type stall deck where you actively are just trying to trap Pokemon and basically just deck your opponent out. Like you just gust whenever you get close to knocking something out. But yeah, Poison Circle, very fun, annoying attack to use, especially if your opponent gets like a stage 2 Pokemon on the board and then like, they don't have the energy to attack with it. So you can then gust it up and like force your opponent into a really awkward situation. So yeah, I do like Glysaur. I think it's quite fun. Next up, though, is we have water types, and Suicune is okay. It's kind of just like the Zacian earlier. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I feel like you could do way better for basic water type attackers. Mamoswine, this Mamoswine actually might be the best one that we have in GLC so far, which is cool for water types. If there is a stadium card in play, you can do 240 damage. You do have to discard that stadium, which sucks. I hate it when attacks do this. They're like, oh yeah, get this super niche thing in play, and then you have to discard it straight afterwards. Kind of sucks. But still, 240 for 3 energy is pretty respectable, I would say. So that's nice for Mamoswine. At the very least, we have like a somewhat playable one. It's not great by any stretch of imagination, but definitely not like a terrible card either, I would say. Also, I thought it was worth mentioning that this Piplup is actually a really solid buff for the Empoleon from way yonder back in the Sun and Moon era. So basically, this Empoleon can just copy an attack from its previous evolution. So you can copy aim and dive and just do 70 damage snipe to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So quite nice, turn 2, rare candy up Empoleon, use aim and dive, snipe an evolving basic, could be quite good. So yeah, so that was definitely worth mentioning. Also, we have fire types in 5th place. Ceruledge, I think, is kind of weak just because you need 4 energy in the hand, which seems kind of annoying, even with fire types, right? You've got Fire Crystal, you've got Giant Hearth, you've got was it Energy Spinner, Fiery Flint, Professor's Letter. Okay, there is like a decent amount of ways to get it going, but you'd want to be able to do that as much as possible. So I'm not sure how many Purgatory Slashes you're actually going to get off in a game, but maybe it has potential. If you have any like more ideas and suggestions, let me know down below. But like maybe you could do some synergy with like where you like use Blacksmith afterwards or something, or Turbo Patch. But yeah, Ceruledge, kind of worth mentioning though, just because it is crazy damage for 1 energy. Also got Diancie, which is a very typical blazing ball attacker, just like the Delphox of the olden days. Like 40 damage, 40 more for each energy attaches Pokemon. Who cares? Bit of a snooze fest, honestly. Like it's fine. Like if you can get the energy on there, it's all right. But overall, I think it's just a bit expensive. 4 energy on a stage 1. Also got this Reshiram, which can do 240 for 4 energy, which is very impressive, and it does 60 damage to itself. So if you remember, way back at the start of the video, we looked at Pawmot, and I mentioned like Protection Cube. So Protection Cube would be a really nice option for Reshiram. Sadly, though, that means if you put a Protection Cube on Reshiram, you can't then give it like a Cape of Toughness or something. Like you can't just buff its HP. But for energy to do 240 and then no damage to yourself is actually quite nice. So I do think Reshiram is kind of carrying fire types here. Next up is, we've got grass types, definitely not dark types. Grass types in 4th place. Got Lokix, Genesect, and Vileplume. Lokix, I think, is the most interesting one, actually. 150, then shuffle it into your deck, which does mean you get to keep the energy. So if you do use something like a Triple Acceleration Energy or an Ignition Energy, then you will be able to just shuffle Lokix and keep the energy back into your deck, which I think is really good. Genesect is interesting. Like, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, then you do 20 damage to it for each grass energy attaches Pokemon. So if you have, like, say, a Venusaur in play that will double your grass energy, or a Meganium, for example, then if you have, like, 3 energy attached to Genesect, that counts as 6 energy, which is a very good sniping attack, I think. So I do think this Genesect has really solid potential. I'm just kind of a bit biased, and I like Lokix and Vileplume more as Pokemon, but I do think this Genesect is, like, a pretty good card overall. Also got this Vileplume, which is, it's whatever. Like, it's definitely not going to be better than the item lock Vileplume. But yeah, Lively Flower, 60 damage. If it was healed this turn, you do 180, which is kind of respectable for single energy, but it has to actually be healing damage from itself. So you have to get Vileplume to tank a hit, and then you have to have a potion or something. So that could get very awkward very quickly. But overall, though, some very fun options for grass types. And even though I spoiled it just moments ago, third place is Dark types, which I do think are the best types in the set. And that is mainly due to Toxtricity. Like, I don't think Crocodile or Weavile are like terrible cards or anything. Like, they're okay. But this Toxtricity, delicious. So, how's the ability Bad Upper? Once in your turn, you may search your deck for basic Dark Energy and attach it to one of your bench Dark Pokemon. And if you do, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So we finally have some stage 1 energy acceleration for dark types. So like stage 2s have always been around. We've got Hydreigon, we've got like Beast Strength for Guzzlord, but it's just not the same, not having a stage 1 energy acceleration like this, which is kind of crazy. So having a stage 1 energy acceleration, I think, is huge for dark types. Also, not mentioned here, but the Toxel has Call for Family and has 70 HP. So just like a chef's kiss at that point, it's perfect. So yeah, I do think this Toxtricity will see a bunch of play in GLC. Very, very cool card. It also just opens up the door to so many different GLC attackers now as well for dark types, like just more Pokemon that needed maybe one too many energy to make work with just Beast Ring and stuff. So yeah, having Toxtricity around is really cool. So yeah, happy for dark types. Next up those, we have some new items and tools. We mentioned Punk Helmet earlier on in the video, but like Sacred Charm, it's alright. Jumbo Ice Cream, like, I think Jumbo Ice Cream's like not terrible. Like, I don't think potions have ever been super impactful in GLC, is that fair to say? But like, if we ever get enough really good ones, then maybe it's worth looking into, like some kind of like janky Wailord stall deck with like Dondozo or something. Like, that could be really funny. But yeah, Jumbo Ice Cream, I don't think it's great, but like, I think there's an argument that if we get enough good potions for GLC, then maybe there's a potion deck to be had. But yeah, Heat Burner. Heat Burner's alright, actually. Like, I don't think it's a replacement for Field Blower necessarily, just because I think Field Blower is just way too versatile to like really warrant Heat Burner. And discarding a Pharyngy is quite precious, but like if you don't have a Field Blower, right, then like Heat Burner is like not a bad option, I suppose. So it also replaces the need to have like an enhanced hammer if you really want one for the collection. So Heat Burner's like, it's a nice card actually. I'll take it back. It's a nice card. Sacred Charm, though, I feel like we've had a lot of these in the format and they've not really done anything, so not really super sold on the charms. But yeah, Jumbo Ice Cream's one to keep an eye on, and Heat Burner seems pretty cool. Next up is we have new supporters. I'm just going to say this right now. Fire Breather, I don't think is that powerful. However, we do have, Embor that can accelerate all the energy that you want from your hand. So if you're able to actually get Fire Breather in your hand when you need it at the right time, it's great. It's great, but it is a one-off in your deck that you have to find. So I think that's always going to make it a bit niche. And there's so many good supporters in GLC. So like having Fire Breather in your deck is one less card that you might want to put somewhere else. But again, if you're just starting out with GLC, it's a really solid inclusion. Dawn, I think, is just crazy. Like, this is just a crazy card to me. Search your deck for basic, a stage 1, and a stage 2, and it's just like, wow. Yeah, get all the Pokemon search out. Like, I think this is better than search your deck for like 2 or 3 basics even. Like, just being able to find one of each will be fantastic in so many different situations. Not just like the first few turns. It's almost better in like the mid game actually. Like just being able to find a basic, like maybe one that you've just shuffled in with like a super rod or something, get back a stage 1, get a stage 2 out finally. I do think Dawn will see a lot of play in GLC. Very cool card. Grimsley's move is also impressive. Like, of course, it might whiff, so you might not hit what you need, but it's also going to be like another way of getting out those awkward stage 2 and stage 1 dark Pokemon that have like a basic or a stage 1 evolution that isn't a dark type. So think about all like the dark type Tyrannotars out there and how like we don't have a dark type Pupitar and Larvitar. So you have to use the Dream Ball combo, which just kind of sucks. It's a bit clunky. It takes a lot to get going. So I think having Grimsley's move like really helps those decks out a lot. I don't think it necessarily makes them broken or anything, but it definitely makes them really fun. And I would be down for like trying out a really fun janky dark type box of Grimsley's move. Like it just sounds really fun. Again, you have to find it. It's a one-off in your deck, but still a very, very fun card, I would say. And a bonus round, we've got some new stadiums. Battle of Colosseum, I think, is okay, more than like a niche tech card actually against like spread decks more than anything, but still pretty solid card overall. And Vertigo Valley. So confused Pokemon don't recover from confusion when they evolve or de-evolve. So I guess that's like a small buff to Bramogas worth mentioning. Like if you confuse your opponent's active stage 1 and they go into like a stage 2 or something, they're not going to recover. So that's nice at the very least. But yeah, thanks for watching. As for some overall thoughts, I think it's a pretty good set for GLC overall. Trainers are impressive, to be honest. Grimsley and Toxtricity seem huge for dark types, like Toxtricity especially. Dark type does feel favored this set, though. However, I could see mixed feelings about this one just because there's really not much to it. And the types that feel like a bit more weaker just feel much, much weaker this set, just because there's really not the number of cards to back it up. So, yeah, though, still let me know what you think down below. I'm definitely going to try and do some more GLC content in the future. And yeah, thank you for watching.